Hey guys, we are building an onboarding application using SQL Server backend, as a data source. Today, what we're going to cover is putting a back on a user. When a user logs in for the first time, um, we want them to update their own information. So we don't have to do that. We don't have to rely on an app admin to upload a photo for them and enter some personal information. It's like, hey, you're new here. You know all this information about yourself. Go ahead and enter it, and we'll update Azure AD. Wouldn't that be great? So last week we talked about indexes. We talked a little bit about the users and getting some information, getting their basic information into our SQL Server database table, our users table. But now we want the users to update it themselves. Okay. So that's what we'll be covering today. Kurt and Jeff, what do you guys think about that? Huh?
I'm ready to go.
You ready to go? What do you think, Kurt?
Well, yeah, I'm absolutely excited about automating that process and seeing how that's going to work with Azure and SQL Server and PowerApps, how it's going to all interact together to try to make that automated.
Absolutely.
I take as much work out of the and responsibility. Take the responsibility out of our hands too.
I like that.
Think about from a legal aspect. If you go in there and you were doing somebody's profile and you misspelled something and it was derogatory in some way or whatever, then you could have a lawsuit. You can have a liability on your hands by doing that. Takes that away, So, and I mean, sometimes you got to think that way these days. So,
yeah.
Well, so I kind of like the idea of automated.
Kurt, you have vast experience building apps. So can you tell me more? Can you expand on that anymore?
I guess I'm was just trying to think of the pros in doing that. It's not really automated. It's because they're doing it. So but it's automated for the company. It's automated for the programmer. And
so what do we do when we build apps? We're always trying to save time. We're trying to automate processes so companies don't have to hire a bunch of people to do manual stuff, right? We're in the business of automating, right?
That's right.
So I'm keeping an eye on the chat. Oh, wow. I've got a lot of responses here in the chat. Good morning, guys. It's always good to see and interact with you guys in the chat and as panelists here. So what we did last week is we tied in to this connector, Office 365 users, and we use that to pull in additional information. So that's a little bit of a foundation or what we're building on top of inside this video. So if I go back over to here to app OnStart, which is most of what we worked with. Now we spent a lot of time within SQL Server Management Studio. In fact, let me go ahead and fire up SMS, which is what some people call it. Okay, and while that's coming up, I'm going to go down and show you the code that we did with. Okay, so here we already started with some good automation. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to get our heads out of the way so we're not blocking any code here. And maybe we can sort of zoom in here so you guys can see the code better. Okay. All right. And let me see what SQL Server Management Studio is doing here. Yeah, let's go ahead and log in there. All right, so we're here on the onboarding database application. Now, of course, that looks really small, doesn't it? I don't know that it makes it that much easier, but at least I have it all loaded up and ready here. But so let's look at the code that we have here. Okay. So we used a with block, and we created two variables here. What type of variables are these? Is this a local variable? Is this a global variable that we're creating? Well, it's actually a block variable. And whenever you see curly braces, these are, you're sort of defining a record here, a row within a table. okay, typically has a field, column name, okay, and then a value, okay. And we relied on this thing, okay, global current user. What do we have up here? Global current user, where we grab the 3 pieces of information we can get at for the user. Why would you put that into a variable? Isn't that weird? Somebody might look at that like, Darren, why do that? You just say user.full name to get at it. What if there's an executive on the top floor of your corporation and hey, this isn't working right, figure it out. And I'm like, okay, it works fine under my account, it works fine on my screen. Maybe you might need to build in some user impersonation. So an executive or the head of a department might have an administrative assistant, and they do things on behalf of someone important. Okay. So that's a feature that you might want to build in your application. And if you set up things like this, how I have things set up in my application template, you guys are benefiting from years of wisdom that I've gleaned over 25 years of software development experience. So this is something that can be changed. So, but this is always going to give you the currently logged on user. Well, it's always going to be me if I'm logged in, and the CEO of a corporation isn't going to give me their logon and passwords. What am I going to do? Well, we can go here. We can throw in the executives' names, their email address, and their photo or whatever. And then all the other stuff sort of runs as if you were that person. So that's sort of cool, huh? User impersonation. It's sort of vital for troubleshooting and debugging really hard to track bugs. Where it works fine on your computer, doesn't work so great on theirs. So
it's good for demoing too. It's really good for demoing.
That's true.
And you could set things up to be constant, to have constants, a conditional constant where, if you don't have anything in the user, if there's nobody logged in at that moment, you could just go ahead and use some kind of a fictional name or something, or some kind of a dummy account that you want to use for testing or for demoing.
Yeah, so I've got within my template, I have something called a demo mode. So if you want to demonstrate something, up here I turn it on, okay, or off. It's a setting that you can change, and then based on that value, I either load up one of two things. I either load up Mary T. Smith, and you can email her, guys, at marysmith@domain.com. I'm not certain that you're going to get a response if you email her. But if I turn that thing on, what you see at the top, I'm sort of impersonating a fictitious user. Okay. All right. So it sort of touches on what you're talking about. So that's absolutely valuable as well. Thank you for sharing that, Kurt.
Hey, also, you pointed out, you were talking about the block variable with the with statement, and you were talking about the curly braces delineating a record. I think it's also kind of cool or important to point out that you were setting up a global variable, which is like an entirely different scope. It's an entirely different command function. You have a set function instead of a with block, but yet you still see the delineated record delineation right there, right, with the curly brackets. You see that. So no matter what kind of variable context you're working with, those curly brackets are going to mean a delineation of a record. It means a record there. And you'll see he's got full name, email, and photo in the highlighted stuff. And then he's got values within that. Those are record values. And for those of you that have dealt with the patch statement or patch function, that's the same thing. Again, there's a patch he's got right there. And again, you'll see the delineation of a record, and you'll see the record value. Now, by going out into the table, into your tables, your actual tables, it could be Excel, it could be SharePoint, it could be SQL Server like he's got right here. That record delineation is exactly what it's doing. It's a row, and it's got the fields. Each one of those are the field names in there. Do you see that? Do you guys correlate that? It's especially for the people who are just getting started with this thing. I really want you guys to see that, because once you see how that lines up, boom, it all lights up for you. This whole thing gets wide open for you. You'll see the field name is the same as in those patch statements within those curly brackets. And then the values that he was putting, he said that to the right of that, you have the in the patch statement, you have the field name, the colon, and then a value. That value is going to be put into that table.
Absolutely.
And that's how it works. It doesn't matter if it's a patch statement. It doesn't matter if it's a global variable or an update context. It's all the same. Go ahead, Darren.
Have you noticed, Kurt, when you use an update context, there's curly braces in there. What's up? What's going on with that? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, it's a record. It's setting up a record.
So when you do an update context and you specify your local variable name and a value, you are setting one little value within a record. Now, every screen has this record. Okay. And you could do an update context and you could update 15 different local variables with that one update context with a comma, just like you do right here in a patch statement. When you see curly braces, think of a record. You're working with a record in some way, shape, or form. Maybe not a record out in the database, but it could be.
So let me just make sure that you're clear. I'm clear on that because that's something that I've never really used it with, but that's kind of cool, Darren. So instead of that patch instead of that patch function up there, it's early. I can replace patch with update context and take out those first two parameters. And the first name was an actual local variable, last name was a local variable, and name was a local variable. They would all be updated within that update context. Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're telling me, Darren?
Yeah, you see curly braces there. They can, of course, data is king mentioned that there's also curly braces and update if and remove if.
Yep.
You know,
entire records.
Think records. Absolutely.
You also see that out there in HTML, right? If you see curly brackets out there in the HTML, that's usually delineating a record or a multiple parameters coming across, in a record. That's important when you're dealing with the when you're dealing with custom connectors.
Okay, very cool. Also, yeah, when we're shooting off an email with Outlook 365 Outlook, I think is what it's called, or Outlook 365, something along those lines.
That's what it is.
And you say first parameter is who you're emailing to. Second parameter, like the subject line. Third parameter is the body. There's a fourth parameter. We can specify all kinds of other things like a CC, BCC, the importance level, attachments, all kinds of things. So what's cool about that is that you could actually pass multiple values as a single parameter. You're passing it as a record. When you say navigate, the navigate function wants to know first thing, what screen are we navigating to? Okay, second parameter is what's your transition? I like a fade transition with screens. Third parameter, curly braces. There's all the local variables that you want to pass into that screen. And after you do that, you have then got that screen now has all those little local variables. Really cool stuff. So moving on here. So this is what we did last week. We checked to see if they're in the database. Okay, so we looked at this. We did a lookup, and then we used that block variable down here. Check their ID. Is it blank or not? Okay, if it's blank, we're going to insert them as a new. You ever see defaults? You're doing an insert. You're creating a new record. You're not editing an existing record. Okay, so we're going to grab all that and then put that in the database. Otherwise, I'm going to take that little this user record right here that we did a lookup on, has a record in that. We're going to put that into global user record. Now, if we inserted it, not everybody knows this. People pay. Listen up, because people pay big money for this. We do a set on this global variable, the one that we do here. The patch returns the record that it just patched, either an insert or an update, either a new record or adding an existing, and it's going to put it right there. So once I learned about that, I was like, oh, that's good. That's some good information.
Can we back up just a little bit there?
Absolutely.
Again, the defaults function. I want to talk about that a little bit more too. Okay. There's a couple cool things that people need to know about that, especially for the people that are just starting off. The defaults, like he said, it's a blank record. So imagine you have a table out there and all your fields, it's going to set a blank row out there. It's going to be all empty except for if you define defaults in the Dataverse or in some of these other DBMSs, database management systems. You can actually set default values for these if nothing's been entered in there. So when it says defaults, it means give me a blank record, and if there's any defaults that have been set up, put those defaults in there, right? And there's something else that's kind of cool about this now.
Yeah.
If you could actually take say a collection, and you could actually set up a collection structure, data structure, to the same as a table structure and keep it empty by just using the default. So you could say, let's say I have a collection, my collection, and I wanted to call it the table. The table is, what is the name of this table there?
This is dbo.users.
It's the users table. So I could say defaults users, and it will set up the collection field structure exact same as the users table. So you can actually do some game playing with this defaults. In other words, you're setting up a blank record from a different table so that way it takes on the properties of that table. Kind of smooth, man. Anyway, I thought those were a couple of important points that you can make with defaults.
That absolutely is a great point, Kurt, because that's why I brought up the SQL Server Management Studio. Created on is a date time field. Well, you know what? The default value, the TSQL function, I believe, is get date. You can specify that there, and now that's automatically populated using the defaults. Okay, but over here, what I do is I set it up, created on, modified on. If I had set up the default on that using this default, I wouldn't have to specify these two things. I could take that out.
Right. Yes. Sometimes you're not using that field, those fields in this section of the program. Maybe you're dealing with something that's in a whole, you got a table that's maybe vast. Maybe it's got 30 fields in there, but you're only going to be using 10 of them on this screen that you're going to be patching up. So you're going to create a record, but you're going to go fill in the other stuff later on in a different screen. So you want to make sure that you got the values all set up for that. Maybe you've got some check boxes that you want them to be turned on when they start up, initialized. When you say defaults, that's what that means. It means initializing your values. It means how do you want it to start with, right? And we're going to talk about initialization a lot throughout this thing. It's really important. But you're going to initialize these text box. Maybe you want a text box, a check box to be initialized to be checked on. So you would put a true in whatever field that you're dealing with for the default. You would put true, or you would put Y if it's a text value, for like yes. You would have this set up the way you want it to be set up. You put a value in that default.
Absolutely. So I just thought, just by you going through all that, Kurt, I just came up with this idea. I want to have a field in here called is active, because if I delete or remove I don't want to delete data, because there's a bunch of other data and other tables that relates to this user table. That would create orphan data, which you don't want.
That's right. That's right.
I
love that. Don't delete the record till you have to, right?
Yeah. How you specify a Boolean value, a true, false, yes, no type of scenario, is a bit field, which is either a 1 or a 0. 1 being true, 0 being false. Okay, so I'm going to is active. I like that in there. Okay, are they an active user or not? And I'm going to save that. Okay. Right. So I just wanted to grab that while I was in there.
Good idea.
So,
and so you don't even have to if you set that to 1 whenever you start create a new record, you don't even need to address that in your patch statement now.
Yeah. So okay, right here is active. Well, is that if I create a new record? Yeah, I want them to be active.
Yeah.
And go up here. And I'm gonna go find something a default here within SQL Server. I'm gonna say 1.
There it is.
Okay, unless I specify 0, I always want it to be 1. I'll save that change. And of course, it's not going to allow me to minimize. Right. So, Amer asked, I understand the code of patch, but we included patch function under set. Can you explain how and what it means? Okay, this is a great question. This is really important. Okay, so here we have a set. So this patch function, it returns a value. A lot of functions will return a value. This function will return the record that it patched. Okay, so especially if it's a new record, I want to grab that record, and that's how I do that. So I'm going off and doing a patch. I'm passing that patch as a parameter into the set function. Isn't that interesting? So it executes this, it returns this record. So really, it's just some record that is being used, and it throws it over in that global variable. So, Amer, if that doesn't make sense, if I did not answer that question completely and fully, please let me know, and I can go into more depth there. Okay.
Can I throw something else in there really quick?
Yes, please.
Amer, this is so powerful and so important, because when you get a reference of that record, let's say that user changes in the process somewhere in your data table, you don't have to go back and look and re-reference that table anywhere else. You put it in a record, and it does, or put that record in a global variable. Now you can carry that with you no matter what screen you're on, anywhere you're in the program. You've got that record. It does all the heavy lifting for you. You don't have to go back and do a lookup. You don't have to do any of that kind of stuff, right? It's all in a, and that's how come he's doing that, because what it's doing is now he's got that GBL user record. It's going to do all his heavy lifting. It's going to carry all that information across all of his screens. No matter where he needs it, he's got access to that. Now you got to be careful, because he's doing that in a global variable, and that's another topic. But you could also do the same thing in a local variable in an update context. It would be the same thing. Instead of a set, you would do an update context with that patch. But that variable does all the heavy lifting for you now. You don't have to re-look it up. Just wanted to put that in there.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to turn up my AC there. So something else I want to throw in here, guys, is an ID. You're familiar with the ID field in SharePoint. It's an auto incrementing, and that's what I'm using here within SQL Server. I'm using some over in SQL Server. It's called identity. Okay, and access is called an auto number. Okay, notice that I don't specify the ID. Okay, because it is generated by SQL Server. Well, we just created a new record. What's its ID? I have no idea. Okay, there are some weird things I could do to try to get it. It's not the greatest, but if I do this right after this one line of code, all I have to do is say GBL user record.id, and I've got it.
Yep.
Okay. So check this out. I can add a label here, and let's make this much bigger. Okay. There's some text. Yeah. And over here for this image, look at this. I used this global user record. And I can say global user record.id. What's the ID? Oh, Darren's ID is 5. And it's completely unique within the database. Isn't that cool? So now you can get at that with that variable name there.
Yeah. Now, if you want to take this forward just a little bit, you know, and it's apart from what you're trying to do here, so I don't want to spend a lot of time on it. But when you're dealing with many-to-many relationships, or one-to-many, where you have the one record has to update many, you're going to have many, like say you have one customer with an ID, and you have many products with that customer. Now you've already captured that record. You don't have to go and look it up again. You just bring that variable in there with it to the many patch. We'll be talking about that later.
Like it. Oh, I was just keeping my eyes on the chat. He said, OMG, okay. It simplifies so much work. Awesome.
It does, Amer. That's powerful.
Yeah. So Amer, I knew you were finishing some stuff up in your personal life, and you're back with us, joining us. So it's I'm so happy to have you back. Yeah.
We missed you, Amer. We missed you, man.
All right. So I love the interaction here. Okay. So data is king. Let's see what data is king says. Does the data in the global user record change as new users come in, or does it add records in that variable for the existing records? Now, keep in mind, all of your variables, everything that's happening that you're pulling in, it's a separate instance for each user. Okay. So think about this. I have a blueprint. I'm building a new subdivision of houses. Have you ever gone to a neighborhood and they all look, they might have different color paint. Their doors might be different colors, but they all, I mean, you might have a single story, you might have a 2-story house. There might be maybe 5 different designs, 5 different blueprints were made. And maybe one architect, builder, whatever, built all these houses in the subdivision. Okay. So let's say there's 5 different blueprints, and let's say there's 150 houses out of there. Okay. So whenever somebody goes to PowerApps, right now you see that I'm logged in here. There's my name, there's my email address, right? So that's the equivalent of Darren has a house within the neighborhood and he has a red door. And maybe I put a welcome visitors to Darren's home. Okay. But there's also a house right next door to mine, somebody else using the PowerApps app, and their door doesn't have anything there, but they might have like a smart doorbell. You know, like everything could be very different, but it was all made from the same blueprint. Okay. When you're in here in PowerApps designing an application, you're creating the blueprint. And you could have 50 users using that application. Okay. Now, what I just described there, what you guys don't realize is I just described a very key basic principle in object-oriented programming. Last night I was watching some YouTube videos on the big screen TV with my wife. She goes, "Oh, this looks interesting." I'm like, "Oh, you're going to start coding now?" She goes, "I might." And what this guy said is a computer science degree in 5 minutes. And he got to the point where, the difference between C and C++ is that in C++ you got objects and classes. And then he went on to the next topic. And I paused it. And she's like, "Oh, this video is so great, Darren. You should make videos like this." And I'm like, "Nicole, do you know what an object and a class is?" She goes, yeah, an object is this and a class is this. I'm like, "Nope. A class is a definition. A class is a blueprint. And a house is an object." Okay. Guys, we're giving you gold here. You may not realize it. And back 25 years ago, when Kurt was teaching me in class, he would stop and he goes, "Pay attention, guys. People pay big money for this." He's dropping nuggets of gold. And yeah, I see a comment. Ellie says, "Computer science in 5 minutes." I should share the video with you guys. It was actually pretty good. She really liked the video and stuff, but he would glib over things. He said, "Well, he just used a term here, but a layman isn't going to know that." You know, object. Well, I know what an object is. A class.
That's true.
Yeah, I've used the word class before. No, we're talking about programming jargon here. This is specific to programming. Okay, so I just shared with you some. So, you know, we like to teach you guys concepts that can be taken elsewhere. Next week, next month, next year, you might. I love PowerApps, but I got a new project coming in. The boss says I need to learn Python. I need to use Start for something, and I've never done anything. Guess what? You'll remember. Hopefully, you'll remember this thing where Darren took the time and explained what the difference between a class and an object is. Typically, if we're talking about computer programs. Okay, your class is what the coder creates or the PowerApps developer creates. I'm creating this app. Okay, the developer creates the class. The user creates the object in memory, or the computer does, but on behalf of the user. Okay, so to answer this question, data is king. Does the data in that global variable change as new users come in? No. Because if I have a house beside and I put a little, welcome sign, whatever, it doesn't mean the sign is going to be on his house too. So when a user uses this app, it's all about them. All these little variables and stuff are all about that. Now, the 2 users are tying into the same data source, So the data in the database is shared. Just like if we lived in a neighborhood, they had an HOA and they had a clubhouse and they had a pool. Maybe in the middle of Saturday afternoon, I might see my neighbor Kurt down at the pool. There are some things that are shared, like a data source. That makes tons of sense, and I didn't confuse anybody. If I did, leave a comment. Maybe I'll clarify.
Do you mind if I jump in on there, Darren?
Please do.
Let's take your example, what you just said, and take it into PowerApps, right? So somebody in the deep dark recess, somebody that worked for Microsoft and did, or presumably worked for Microsoft, they took the time to build the idea of a text input box. And if you take a look at a text input box and you look on the right panel of that, go to the right panel, you'll see all these properties.
Oh, I need to change my view here. Here we go.
You see all the properties on that right panel of that where he's got that text input box?
Yeah.
What he's done, what all those are variables, everything on there or other objects that also have variables in it, right? And all of these things can be defined at design time. But before anything gets designed, some programmer came up with the idea that says, I want to make a text input box. And I need this text input box to have a default, a format, a font property, a font size property, and all these different properties. Now, what it does is it says, okay, so it defined it. Now, he put a definition. He created a class. That's what Darren called a class. And it's a blueprint. And what it's doing is it's telling the computer, if we ever choose to use a text input box, this is what it's going to look like. And this is what it's going to need. And this is how big a memory pocket you need to create for it, because it's going to have all these different properties in it that I need memory for. And it's going to hold all that memory, that entire memory pocket, and it's going to be called a text input box. But right now, it's sitting out there in the deep, dark recesses of your computer, and all you can do is you access it by going up there to hit insert, and you see when you hit insert, and you see all those objects, those are all, right now, those are all blueprints. Those are all just blueprints sitting up there waiting to be used.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, as soon as he clicked that text input and he brought it down on the screen, it became a living, breathing object. It became a living, breathing house that Darren said. It got built. And
It's
it's
an
got all the
instance.
stuff. It's an
Instance.
It's an instance of that object. And so that means all those.
I would say an
properties
object is an instance of the class.
It is.
Would you agree with that rephrasing?
That's exactly what it is.
Kurt, you're the person who taught me all this. I just
Look,
Alright,
guys, if you get this now, PowerApps is not object-oriented programming. It's object-like programming. Okay, it uses objects. You can't create classes. You can't create your own blueprints in here, and that's what sets it apart from some of these other languages like C and Pascal. And C++.
What do you think of these? We can create components. Aren't these objects?
You can create components, which is it's sort of like that. It's sort of like that. It's kind of a good go-between,
Yeah.
But you can't create the blueprints yet. So when you take these inputs, these text input boxes with the property screen over there, that's the memory pocket that gets created. And it's got, what it does now is it creates a hexadecimal memory address sitting out there on your computer that you'll never be able to remember, right? You'll never remember that hexadecimal memory location. That's the reference to that object, that instance of the blueprint that Darren created with that input text box sitting up on the screen. He's got 3 of them now. Actually, he's got 5 of them right now. But he's got 5 houses sitting up there right now. And they're all used that. But they all came from the same blueprint. Do you see that? And you can modify the blueprint to detect what kind of windows are you putting in your house, what kind of door are you putting in your house, what kind of floors, and all that stuff gets defined in those properties. That's the beauty of an object-oriented programming. And text input number 1 has no idea about the values in text input number 2 or text input number 3. That is called encapsulation. You encapsulizes all the values and they're contained in each house. Go ahead, Darren. You're getting ready to say something.
I got 2 things I got to say. Number 1, they don't know about each other unless you link them together. So I could go in here and say, oh, the default for this is text input 2 You know what I mean? But your thing still
Right.
stands. I mean, unless you write some code to link them together or wire them up.
It's still private. Your house is private to you until you open your windows, right? And that's exactly what we're doing here.
And the last thing that you said was what? You used an object-oriented term.
Encapsulation.
Encapsulation.
The principle of encapsulation.
I mean, you guys are getting a 15-minute course on object-oriented programming, and it allows you to understand this Power Platform
at a deeper level.
More deeply. Yeah. Help me out, Jeff. Am I using the right grammar here?
More deeper.
We're understanding this deeper. Give me a thesaurus word here.
More completely.
More completely. Okay. Yeah. So you said the word that you just used, Kurt, was what again?
Encapsulation.
Encapsulation. Now, if you think about the word encapsulation, let's ask Jeff. If I said encapsulation or something is encapsuled, what does that mean to you, Jeff?
It means it's incorporated into, like in this case, you're talking about these text boxes, right? So, and there's a formula that sets that up. When you click that you want to create a text box, there's a whole bunch of other stuff going on behind that to create that text box. So these things are incorporated in that or encapsulated in that, right?
So that's kind of close, but more to the point. If think about a capsule is this little, like maybe a little pill, a tiny little pill, right?
Right.
A jagged little pill, right?
No dad jokes. No
dad jokes. Okay, so so in that capsule contains, it's a container. It's a container. And encapsulation means to contain something. It's a container that's going to hold this stuff in together, and it's going to keep it separated from the other tiny little pills. So you have a pill bottle, and that's why they call them capsules, pill capsules, because they're all each self-contained, and that's exactly what we have. We could also synopsize that, or we could make that enough similar. That's what I'm looking for. A similar value would be to make things I don't even know. Containerized would be another way to put it, right? Containerized. But in object-oriented programming, you have to have these different principles. You have to have inheritance. One object has to be able to inherit from another.
We're going deep, guys. You guys are going to completely understand object-oriented programming before we're done with this video. I tell you.
So think about the text input box. There's a font object inside of a text input box, and there's also a font object inside of a label, right? So what we're doing is we're inheriting the font object into the text object. So we're inheriting, right? So you have to have an inheritance. You also have to have polymorphism. Polymorphism means you can, poly means almost, it means like fake, phony, right? It seems like you're changing the instance, right? Polymorphize. We're going to polymorphize. So you have to have inheritance, you have to have polymorphism, and you have to have inheritance or encapsulation. Sorry.
Right.
You have those three principles, you have an object. Now, you guys, this is something that's really cool stuff, man. Object-oriented programming. Most people can't even spell object-oriented programming. You guys are actually going to be able to spell it by the time we get done with this live stream today. So
encapsulation then is like compartmentalizing.
Yep. It's very similar to compartmentalizing. Yep. I guess the difference would be a compartmentalized means that you can set this type of thing away from this thing and be able to make, they could be similar. And you're getting compartmentalization in that.
Yeah.
Kurt, I'm going to keep you going, buddy. What's going here? What about abstraction?
Well, now, okay, so abstraction is part of polymorphism. Okay, so
really?
When you create an abstract object, you're creating you're telling that the object, you're going to have this framework, but it has to be inherited. So you can't use it on its own. So I have this abstract object called a font property. Okay. I need to have, it needs to be inherited with other things, right? So you can't do it by itself. So you don't see a font object sitting out there working in a text input box. Now that font object works inside, it gets inherited in the text input box. So the font object would probably be an abstract object. An abstraction just means the programmer just kind of sets out there what it might look like, a small blueprint. It's kind of like an almost blueprint, but it allows other programmers to go in there and change that blueprint. Okay. So you have this abstract idea that gets brought in by another programmer and it gets detailed. And that's what abstraction's about. And it's actually part of polymorphism because you can seemingly change the properties of another object through abstraction.
Polymorphism. Go.
Polymorphism.
Well, okay, hold on a second. I want Jeff to look at this word polymorphism.
Okay.
Just in case. I don't know if you know this or not. So I'm just testing Jeff here. Like poly as a what do you call that? A prefix to a word?
Yes.
What does poly mean? Do you know?
Well, Kurt said it earlier. It's like it's fake or artificial. Yeah. So.
And then
morph is to change, right? To change a state of existence.
Yep. Exactly. So it seems like we're going to change a state of existence with polymorph. Yep.
Yeah. Ellie says, Kurt Lawson is good. I will take the lesson. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Love it, guys.
Hey, guys, we're talking my stuff now. This is, PowerApps. That's Darren. Darren's a PowerApp programmer, man. I'm still kind of a neophyte with the PowerApp stuff, but I take all of this information. I guess that's where Darren likes me so much in these things because I bring in the behind the scenes things of the way programming works, and it kind of interacts with the way he knows PowerApps, and it kind of helps us become a really good team.
Right. So jump in there too, where Nick talked about many. So it's many. So
it means many. Yeah.
Right. Many, but also, so you can't have there's not one that's concrete necessarily in there as well, right? So that when we talk about,
well, you create it concrete when you make it an object, but when it's a class, it's got many. So poly means many. Nick's exactly right about that. That's probably it might even be a truer meaning than what I was trying to come up with.
So there we're talking about many forms of existence. If you polymorph, then there's going to be several forms of existence. Forms.
Yep.
Yeah. Right.
Yep. But it's also both meanings hold true for it though. Because the poly meaning that, and actually I learned it from the side where it says there's no true morphism in programming. You can only polymorph. So both sides of that are true. Both meanings are true. But I really like that the many thing that Nick brought in. Thank you, Nick.
More accurate.
I think it is. I think it really is in our case.
Yeah.
So a user of a Power App creates the objects or the objects.
Who started this rant, by the way? That wasn't you. I know you started the rant, Darren, but who brought that? Who triggered you?
I'm pretty sure it started with, "Hey, Darren, can I jump in here for just a second?"
No. No, because he was ranting before that, and there was somebody that brought up a question. Oh, it was Data is King started this thing. This all came from, does the data in the global user record change?
Oh, yeah.
And Darren goes,
we got to blame somebody here. Kendall, you're going to have to be it.
Yep.
Now, I will have to say I'm going to build into this streaming software a mute button, which Jeff will control based on his discretion, and he'll be able to mute.
I don't like that because you guys are going to cahoot together and mute me. That's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen.
Oh, that's funny.
So it might seem like we're just all over the place, guys, but this is a great detour. This is a valuable detour, and we're going to get to what we're going to get. What we said we're going to get to here in a few minutes. But I just wanted to capture some of this stuff and organize it a little bit. Now, by the way, guys, if you like any of the notes that I'm doing here, I created a website called powerplatformlinks.com. I'm going to put it down here, and you can get out all these things. Okay. So if you go in here, PowerApps, you'll see all my notes for all this stuff. And I link to other content creators. And it's just sort of like my place. I use Obsidian. If you guys want to know more about Obsidian, if you guys express interest, maybe I'll create a few videos on Obsidian. But I find it to be a great tool, and you can link things very easily. It uses Markdown. But why not capture all this great stuff here? So anyhow, let's so these are things that maybe we'll have a whole video on this type of thing at a later time. I don't want this to be too much of a detour. Okay. So yeah, so these things, these controls are examples of objects. Okay. And in a way, a user could be an object in your application. Okay. Each of these things here could be considered objects. All right. Just FYI. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to create a new screen with you guys. And we're going to call it user management screen. Now, this is a screen I believe that we worked on before. We created an application administration screen. Let's see if I'm remembering this right. User management screen. And let's see here. I'm trying to remember. Okay. I think what I'm going to do is use a blank screen actually for this. So I'm going to duplicate this screen here. And I'm going to move it up. And instead of user management screen, this will be used for application administrators. Okay. Maybe we need to make a user inactive or not. This blank screen here, we're going to say user profile screen. Okay. So this is for a user to modify their own stuff here. Okay. So I'm going to grab that. Okay. And what I am going to do is let's go look at our code where we knew that this was a brand new user. Okay. Which is right here. If there were blank, well, something I want to do right here is create a global variable, GBL. Should always prefix our global variables with GBL. That's best practice. Yeah, it looks like Kurt's back here. All right, so global first time user. And I'm going to set that to be true. Okay. And just so this is set up, I'm going to go down here on the else block. To be false. Okay. Now, when we hit the home screen, if you ever modify your app on start, it's going to mess up anything there, so you have to rerun it here. On the home screen, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little timer in here. Why would I have to put a timer here? Why couldn't I just at the end of app on start do a navigate based on that variable? Hey, if this is the first time they've used this, go off and navigate to this screen. Do either of you know, or does anybody in the chat know why we wouldn't want to do that? Seems like
why we wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah. So what I have here is, when we insert them, they're a new user, first time they've ever used this application. Okay. So where did I do that? Right here. Okay. So it's blank. They've never used the app. So I create this little global variable, global first time user, and I set it to true. Well, at the bottom of our app on start, I could say if global first time user, if that's true, then navigate. Any reason I shouldn't just do it here? Because if they're a new user, I want to take them to that new screen. I'm like, hey, this is the first time with the app. Please upload your photo. Please give me a nickname that you want to be referred to as. Give me, if you want to enter your city, state, zip, all that type of stuff. That's what we're going to do here today.
Well, Darren.
Huh?
Well, Darren. Why don't we deep link them to it?
Well,
if they're a first-time user, go ahead.
Yeah, deep linking is used for if you have a parameter, a query string parameter being passed into the application. In this case, that's not the case. They are just opening up the app. Somebody shared the app with them, they clicked on it, and they came in. There's not going to be out. We could forward a link that has a query string parameter. I didn't want to get into all the params and the query string stuff because that's really not at the core of what I'm trying to do here.
I guess I was thinking a use case in that would be that if you're doing this is an onboarding app. So somebody, it's a new employee or it's a new student or something new, you could send them a link and that link would just fire it off right to this place to where you needed to go or something. And I don't know if you were building that, maybe it'd be cool to put in there, but it was just an idea while you were. Yeah. My mind was just going while you were going.
I think in that case, let's say they got to the app for the first time, not by clicking on that link, but because they were clicking around in SharePoint and they found the link. Like, oh, make sure you're using the onboarding application. This is your first day, and maybe somebody forgot to put that little query string thing in there. Well, this handles either situation.
That's true.
Which is so I had a mentor over 25 years ago, always taught me to simplify things. And
yeah. I actually, you just showed us that deep linking a couple of weeks ago in our accelerator class in the office hours. And I thought it was a really fascinating subject. And most of the subjects that we cover in there are fascinating, but that was a really good thing. And I thought, well, wouldn't that be neat to put that in here too? But maybe it's not the right spot for it, like you said.
Yeah, but Kurt, why shouldn't we do this? What I'm thinking of here at the bottom of the app on start, we have a valuable variable that tells me if this is the first time they've used this. It's the first time I want to put them on a screen where they give me all the information that they're willing to share. So we get that into Azure AD so that the application later can reference it or a report can be better utilized.
I like the idea of doing that.
Okay, well, let's try this here.
But will it work in an on-start like that, or do you got to go to is that the reason why you're using the timer on that, or?
Yeah, so that's what I'm getting at here. So if I try, say, user profile screen, okay. User profile screen, okay, I got a red squiggly. Navigate is not allowed in on-start when app.start screen has a value. That's interesting.
When app start screen has a value.
So app.
Oh, got it.
Yeah. So app. You guys now know what an object and a class is, right? The app object is an object. Okay. You can click on this object here. So I don't know, about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, they created another thing here called start screen. And they want whatever screen should be brought up first should be over there. So if I click on that, look at this. So I've got deep linking set up here in my template, already ready for you to configure. Isn't that cool?
Okay.
That convenient? Oh. So so that's how you set up deep linking, by the way. They added this, and what kicked all this off, what caused all this drama, because people would do this. They would navigate in the app on start. And what they noticed is people wrote apps in for teams, is that they would take a long time to load up. And they're like, okay, well, we've got to do things. We just want that first screen to come up. And there's a whole Microsoft article on it. Okay, so I'm probably not doing it justice here. So they create that start screen, and if you're using it, you'll notice like, oh, now this doesn't work now. So you went and tried to research it and found that now there's a start screen, right? So that is not allowed. Okay, I'm going to cut that. And I'm going to go over now. It sort of hinted if I didn't have a screen in the start screen that I could. Maybe they changed it because a lot of people may have complained. Okay, so on timer start here, let's say if that go to that screen, and I want to do a fade, of course, right? I used to be able to just to say fade, but I have to say screen transition.fade now. Okay, so that's going to go over there. And let's look at the other properties of this timer object. And we'll set this up to be 10 milliseconds. Auto start set to true. Auto pause, meaning if we go off of this screen, it will automatically pause. And we don't have a repeat, so it should only happen once. And we have an if statement here, so it's not going to navigate unless they're a first-time user. And this screen is set up as in the start screen property of the app object. So we know we're always going to come here first. And then we're going to check this in the timer, and it's going to forward it on. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to SQL Server. I'm going to modify my data directly. Now, you saw me bring up data here. I probably need to zoom out a little bit. And I did this select, and I got a little split here. And if I look at the data here, there's the data. And this is read-only stuff. So if you right-click, I'm teaching a little bit about SQL Server here, guys. So I did a select. If you just want to look at the data, you do this. If you want to edit the stuff, it's only going to give you the first 200 records, but it's going to allow you to edit the data in real time. Okay. I'm going to select Darren. I don't like Darren. He's getting ripped out of there. Boom. Darren is no longer in there. And even this guy up here, I don't like him either. I'm going to delete him.
I think Darren got a bum rap.
Yeah. I'm going to keep this guy, Kurt. He's a pretty cool guy. All right. So I'm going to exit out and I'm going to minimize that. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to I'm going to go to this screen. Okay. Now I'm going to run on start. Okay. And I'm in design mode, so it didn't execute the start screen. But I'm gonna just click on home screen, and well, I need to run this. Let's go to this screen here, and I'm going to save. Then I'm going to run it. I'm going to click on home, see what happens. Oh, boom! I'm on the user profile screen now because that was the first time that I was put in there. Okay, nice. Is that true? Well, here is this read-only data snapshot of the data. Let me execute this code again. Oh, look, Darren now has an ID of 7, and he's at the bottom. Okay. There we go. The newest user in there. Okay. So that's the setup for the actual material that I wanted to cover today in this video. Hopefully you guys we're taking the scenic route, guys. And why do people think this?
Great. This is a Sunday drive. This is a Sunday drive. Go ahead. Darren.
Yeah. Why do people take the scenic drive? Because it's more enjoyable. Of course. You guys got all kinds of great value here, right? And what were you just calling it, Kurt? The what drive?
This is a Sunday drive with Kurt and Darren on a Saturday morning.
That's right. I love it.
We should name the live stream that.
Sunday drive through PowerApps.
Well, I don't know. Some people might get frustrated because we jump around from topic to topic. But here's the thing: I really think there's a lot of beauty behind just having a just going with it and coming up with different topics. Sometimes the people that are watching this thing, they bring in stuff, and then we start talking about that. And it reminds me of the days when I was teaching the classes in the colleges, and we would go out on breaks, and then the students would come out there and we'd be talking about it. It's almost like we had the real class. So Darren brings in this lecture. He's got these notes. He's got this stuff that's ready to go. And yeah, he needs to cover that stuff. But then we go out and we hang out and we talk about the stuff that we really want to talk about. You know what I mean? And it's not that we don't want to talk about the original stuff, but some other stuff just comes up sometimes, you know, and it's all important. I think it's all important. And I think that's what makes us valuable in this niche, this area, you know?
Absolutely. You know, something I really do like, you know, we put this in this little variable. I almost want that to be a global. Because I don't want to have to go hit this thing again here. So what I think I'm gonna do is what's the best way to do this? Okay, I've got an idea. Do this, and we'll create a global variable. GBL 365 user is this. Okay, so got that. And now what I can do is I can reference that variable here, and it won't have to be looked up again. But for throughout the whole app, I've got this global variable that has that. So when they come in here, I got to run my on start again. Okay. Okay. Let's add some stuff here. Let's put some text boxes in here. Now, what I don't like is well, I'm gonna put this in here temporarily. I'm gonna make it big like this. And okay, so I've got that. And if you use my template or you do things the way that I do, I go over here, copy controls from here, and I grab some things that have been styled from this is pretty much a styling screen. Okay. So I'm going to copy some things here, maybe have a button or two.
Can I just talk about that for a second, Darren?
Sure.
Your styling screen here.
Sure.
You know, I never thought about this until I started working with you in these PowerApps, and I just love the way you do that. I wish I would have done that back when I was working with Visual Basic, because you think about it, I would spend hours getting my text input boxes or my labels just the way I want it. And you get it, you do one, and then you got to do another one, then you got to do another one. And then, you know, maybe you're smart enough to hit Control C and Control V a couple times. But then this is so nice having all your controls set up. So spend a few minutes now. If you want to just get a template and start that way, that's one way. But if you don't, at a minimum, get all your controls all set up the way you want to use them throughout your entire app, and then just copy them from there and just get all your stuff from there. I love the idea of doing that. You got a one place to get everything. That's just that could be an entire live stream. In fact, it probably was. But yeah, very good stuff.
This is stuff that you taught me. I remember back in VB6, we could create our own controls. And it's sort of like you like you say, all right, controls will have something like that, and you can inherit from it. With VB.net, it got better with inheritance and stuff. So this is I guess the best way to do an object in PowerApps is to create a component, you know, but it comes with some complexity. It's not good for beginners, you know. Okay, so we've got this.
But that's professional stuff there. That's what makes somebody a professional developer, is things like this, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So what I want to show you guys, I'm going to move. Oh my goodness. I selected a bunch of other stuff like my spinner. I don't want that. Put that down there. Put this down here. And what I'm going to do is for this text box, I'm going to look at this global 365 user. What are the properties we have from this Office 365 users? You know what they have to do now is they have to completely rename this connector because it's no longer referred to as Office 365, right? It's now M365 or Microsoft 365. I'm sorry, I get frustrated sometimes when they just like to rename things. Okay. Let's just go alphabetically. About me. Is there anything in here about me? Nope, there's not. Okay, so in here, I'm going to say about me. Okay, now, if I were to go, I don't want to show you my delve because I may not want to share some things on my screen. What I could do is show you in Super PowerApps, though. Let's see if there's instant information over there in my delve, because delve will show you and all your colleagues at your company all the documents that you're working on. You could be working for an organization and you create a Word document called all the reasons, all the things I don't like about my boss. You save that. You can go to your Delve profile and be like, what? What's that? He might schedule a one-on-one meeting with you based on that. Oh my goodness. Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff in here. It's showing me like 30 different documents, even in that other one there. Okay, so I don't want to share that. So anyway, if you go and you click on your waffle here, did you see what I did, guys? You see these 9 dots? This is called a waffle. Okay, and that's not just something Darren came up with. This is what the industry. You see these 3 little lines here? This is called a hamburger. Again, not my term, the industry term.
Looks like a hamburger to me. Looks like a hamburger to me.
So you go in here and you look for Delve. Do you see Delve? I don't see Delve. What I could go explore all apps. And once you go to explore all apps, let's see if I can give you a. Now, once you use it once, it'll probably appear on this screen. Okay. If you click on explore all your apps, you're going to get something that looks like this. And then what you want to do at this point, all apps, like, yeah, give me all the apps. These are all the apps you can use within M365. Okay. And you're going to see Delve. You work in an office, you work in an M365 environment. Go to this link. In fact, I'm going to share this link into the chat. Click on it. Go into your Delve and click on your manager. He might have a document out there like all the reasons that I don't like Darren. See if you can open it. Anyhow, I digress. Now, what you'll notice in Delve, if you look at your own profile, is that, let me see if I can change anything. Yes, you can change something, but I was looking at all this stuff that would be disclosed, and I don't want to disclose all this information. But when you go to Delve and you click on yourself, you'll see a little update profile button. And if you go there, okay, this is okay to share with you guys. This is what Delve looks like once you click on me here, okay? And you see I can update my information, okay? So about me. Oh, I'm my father's son. Now, over here this is a completely different tenant, so I didn't do that there. Projects. Well, I'm working on the onboarding project. Enter. Boom. Now so people can see what projects I'm working on. What are my skills? Well, I have some nunchuck skills. How you spell nunchuck? I know this. You spell skills, of course, but I'm going to add that.
He says, I have nunchuck skills. Darren, you can't even spell nunchucks. No.
I know, man. With spell check, man, it's like
Right.
you start using calculators, and you start forgetting your math, your multiplication tables.
It's like I was telling Ellie. You are living proof that you can be a nunchuck artist and not know how to spell. It's true.
Rick says nunchuck. Was that one of my options? Nunchuck. Anyhow,
we digress.
Guys, a confession. Kurt and I, and thankfully Jeff is not a part of the club. We have ADD, so I think that's why. Perhaps that's why our material is so interesting, Kurt, is because
I feel very marginalized now.
I'll allow you to take that up with HR. Okay, so okay, so I'm gonna zoom in here. I'm gonna go down to 100%. Okay, about me, and I'm gonna put a padding of the right side of at least 10 there. Okay, so that should say that. Now, what I could do here is I could say, let's show another example. Okay, how do you learn how to code? How do you learn how to do anything? You learn it by doing, and by repetition. Okay, so with.
Yep.
Curly brace. Oh, look at that. A curly brace. Think record.
We aren't saying that it's not important to listen to what Darren's got to say, but you still got to do some kind of coding.
With about me. Okay, then we got the comma. Okay, now we can do our if statement here.
What I like about that with is it allows me to be a little bit lazy. I don't have to retype a whole lot of stuff if it's a complex formula,
If it's blank, I want to say something in the long lines of I don't know, blank. Otherwise, give me about me. It's a really good example of using a with block. So let's just go through this, because a lot of people want to use this with function. It's a great function. It's more of an intermediate level type of a function. But if you can wrap your mind around it as a beginner, or if you're looking to use it, maybe you're already an intermediate user here. Okay.
Yeah.
So with is a function, number one. Fact number one. Fact number two, it expects two parameters. Okay. Now, do you notice up here at the top it says with the scope? Okay. We're creating variables that have the scope of the second parameter, which is, as you see here, the formula. The formula to be called using the scope provided by the first parameter. Okay, now if I go up here, the scope to which to call the formula defined by the second parameter. Okay. So instead of saying GBL, now we could have called the Office 365 users like we did in the app on start, and we could have put it there and then there. Let's say we're looking up a record in a database. Now you're making two database calls if is blank was false. Inefficient. The with block is great. Now, Kurt, I got a question for you from Amber. What does scope mean?
Okay, the scope is going to mean the context in which you're going to be using it in this case. So, and the boundaries in which you're going to use it. Okay. So scope would be, we're going to use it in this block and only in this block. And the context is going to be, we're going to use the about me in the second parameter instead of the entire formula. So it also works. It's almost like a delegate, right? It delegates. It takes the entire formula that you put in, and instead of an entire formula, it could be a very long formula. We put it into a one-word scope variable, and it takes that entire scope and puts it into the formula below. I don't know. It just, when I was saying that, it just seemed like that I made it more complex. I don't know. I'm sorry, guys. That was probably about as clear as mud.
Well, what do you think, Amber? Please continue. Like, did that make sense to you? So, first of all, what can have scope? Things can have scope. Okay. Well, variables. What are the things? Controls.
I think can't everything have scope? Can't your entire program have scope?
Yeah. So Amber confirmed that did make sense. So don't doubt yourself there. But I just wanted to make sure. Mm-hmm.
I think he's just saying that just to get me to stop talking, because that's like, oh yeah, makes sense. Go away, Kurt. Go away. Just go away. Sorry, Darren. Go ahead.
I want to make sure that we have more comprehensive information about these topics that people bring up here. Okay?
Yeah, good.
So typically, when you hear scope, you're either thinking one of two things. You're thinking of, okay, it's like think about houses, like we were before in a neighborhood. Okay. The whole neighborhood would be a global scope. I just go into anybody's house. If you want to get shot in the state of Florida, maybe. It's Florida has a stand your ground law. So if you're, I don't want to go down any type of rabbit trails here. I was trying to make a joke, and it probably wasn't funny. So the answer is no. Okay. What do you have access to? That's what scope means, right? What do you have access to? I think I've got I look like buckwheat here. Good. You guys remember buckwheat? What's that? A calic? I've got a calic over here.
Yeah, that's the boundary that I was referring to, though. That's their boundary, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Jeff says scope defines the purpose of the function, app, document, etc.
The purpose, which would be the context, right?
What do you have access to? Okay, so the neighborhood is a scope, is a global scope for me. I have a house. Well, even somebody that doesn't even own a house can come into a neighborhood, has a global scope. It's okay for you to drive down a street, even if you don't live in the neighborhood. Okay, so let's just talk about that. What's okay for you to do and what's not okay for you. In the case of PowerApps, what is possible, what's not possible. Okay, so the neighborhood is a global scope. I can drive around, and I could reference another house in the neighborhood, right? Now, think of houses like screens. Think of neighborhood as the application. Typically, there's two scopes in PowerApps. You have the application, and then you have individual screens. Mostly. Talking about the width, okay? There's yet another type of scope, and it's a block of code, the second parameter within the width. Okay. Nick says, who has development experience, limit area of subject. Yeah. Okay. So let me say, okay, well, things that can have scope. Okay. Degrees of scope within PowerApps. Okay. We've got the application, the whole app. Then we have screen. Okay, so here I'm going to say global screen. That's going to be local. Okay, for global, okay, examples, you can use set function. What about collect? A collection is a global. Okay, a local will be a date context. Okay, and then block of code. What about a for all? And a with. Think of any other functions that have sort of like define their own block of scope. If we think of them, we should add them here. Okay. So as we go down these little side shoots, I want to sort of document these things and we can reference them in the future. So this is a great little, I think it was a very valuable to you guys, the viewers. So this has a block scope. Okay. Now, what does this do here? As I'm running this, I now know it's blank. Now, probably a better way of doing this, if I can zoom out. Well, of course, this is all messed up, right? Okay. Now, what we could have done is no data provided. Please enter. Okay. I put that in as the hint text. So now, if I were to do something like this, I always want to simplify my code. Maybe the first crack at it, it's not very simplified and efficient. And going back a second time and making it more efficient, more simple, it's called refactoring in software development terms. No data provided, please enter. Okay, I sort of like that better because they've done it. It's not there. If I put blank and I had a save button, it's going to say nothing provided. I didn't want to do that. But if I put it in the hint text, you're communicating to the user nothing's in there. Please provide it. But if I try to save it, it's not going to have anything in there. Okay. So what else can we do here? I am going to copy and paste this. I'm going to show you what I like to do when I space out my controls. I put them side by side and I just use the down arrow. And I sort of usually like the spacing of that. And on the second one, I'm going to take all that out. What is the next thing we have access to? City. Okay. What in there? What else do we have access to? Now, do we have anything in here? No, we got a carriage return that I don't like. I don't like the fact that the C in city is lowercase. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. Okay. City. What's the next thing that we have? City. We have company name. Okay. I find this to be a fun one because if you're all in the same tenant, wouldn't it be the same thing for everybody? Right? Unless you've been added as a guest external user.
Yeah, maybe not. A company that I work for has a parent company, but they mix sometimes on their IT stuff. So there's two different, there's a parent company and then the company that I work for.
Wow.
Underneath. Yeah. So maybe not. And I know that parent company has like 26 baby companies that it owns. So yeah.
That's very interesting. I like that. Thank you, Jeff. Okay, it looks like I have no company information in there. Okay. Something that Andrew C just gave me here. I want to make sure I'm documenting this stuff so you guys can get at this. Another example of let's see here. Okay. He said, okay, so sequence function. Now, typically sequence is used with a for all. Sequence gives you, oh my goodness, didn't want to do that. Yeah, so I'll just add that to the list that we can tackle later. Okay, what else? And this type of stuff, I'm gonna shorten this to please provide. And I'd say a lot of organizations, they don't fill out all their Azure AD stuff. So this is great. This is a great thing that you can add into your applications, or maybe create one application where everybody can update their stuff. And the network administrator sends out the link, hey, please enter your information to thousands of people. So I don't have to. Or you create an app for HR so they can get all the information from those people and enter it, What else can we access from Azure AD? We got company name. Let's just keep scrolling down here. We got country. Okay. Oh, US came in. That's great. Restore points by saving manually. Paste there. Apartment. Okay, now
If you're getting anything helpful out of this, a comment or even a like really helps the channel and lets people like you know this is good content. Much appreciated.
Next one we'll look at here. A display name. Okay, what's my display name? Okay, there we go. Display name, given name. Okay. Kurt, you have any computer programming wisdom you'd like to impart to us this morning while I'm doing all this really boring stuff?
Just nothing's coming to mind right now. Throw me something.
We need to have a list for you of cool and interesting things to sort of liven things up while I'm doing boring stuff. I need to make more space on my screen here. As you have worked on many projects over the years, Kurt, what do you do when you start running out of space on a screen? How do you handle that?
I am a big fan. In fact, I just did a video on it, and hopefully you're going to get that thing out there for our accelerator students.
Yeah.
So I'm a big fan of pop-ups, and I like to take when my screen starts. Do you really hate them? I like them because what I can do is I can put related information together, and it takes the clutter off of my screen. And I can still see the context of my screen while I'm in the middle of that related information. So I can bring up some stuff onto another level of view in a small box that brings some things in there. And I can still see the stuff behind it so that I don't forget what I'm working with. That's kind of why I like the pop-up. And it keeps the clutter off of my screen, So I'm a big fan of pop-ups.
Well, I think of, back in the day when you go to any web page, there's all these pop-ups. Click on this, banner advertisements. And ever since then, I've always hated them. But in your case, instead of having to go to a different screen or something, I actually agree with you there in that context. When something pop up, I immediately go to those banners back in the 1990s.
Yeah. No, you're right. I'm not into those. What do we want to call those? Automated pop-ups or whatever you want to call those things. Those unwanted things.
Ads.
But when somebody clicks a button that and it brings up a pop-up, to me that the user needs that information now, and I like doing that. And I also don't like having a lot of screens in my application. I don't like a lot of screens. I like to have 3 or 4 screens in my application. I like to try to keep everything within pop-ups, and it just, for me, there's a little extra managing when you're dealing with, especially in PowerApps, because you have a couple of variables that you're going to have to keep track of to make your pop-up visible or invisible. And I go in depth in that in a couple of my videos on how to do it. Because for the beginner programmers, I know that it might seem a lot to deal with, context variables or local variables and containers and making things visible or not. Ellie Carter says, I need to do pop-ups. I have lots of clutter on screens. Yeah, Ellie, your application, I was privileged enough to look at that application a little bit, and she's got a lot of information that she's trying to keep track of. And I really think that that's a great exercise, a great use case of pop-ups. And of course you can do tabs. Tabs is kind of the same thing though.
Kurt, you mentioned you do pop-ups. So here's some of your material that you just released, which is excellent material, by the way. Do you remember which one of these you cover that? So for the accelerator students, or even,
I'm pretty sure I use that in containers.
Okay.
When I'm talking about containers, but I also did it. I went extensively into it in the last video that I just gave to you last night. I just did it last night. And I'd say a third of that video is about pop-ups. I don't hold me to that with the containers. I can't, I'd have to go and look at it just to make sure that I'm not,
yeah, good stuff.
I can't imagine not talking about a container without a pop-up, but
yeah.
That to me, that is like the most important thing of it. But you know what? Containers are cool too, because you can put related items in a container, and it can help make your screen more user intuitive. Like for instance, I like my screens to read left to right, like people from this part of the world read left to right, and so I write my applications in a way that starts from the left side and goes to the right, and from the top down to the bottom corner, so that way they're tracking and they're entering information, and it just seems natural for them, And so I like to put my containers in a way, I group things in containers to do the same type of thing, to make my program more user intuitive. Now we just had a conversation about UI UX, right? We were in object-oriented programming. Now we're in UI UX now.
I would like to provide, because somebody comes into an organization, you're onboarding them, you want them to provide a photo here, okay? So you provide them a way to do this. And what we could do, let's use a little save button down here, like this save button. What does it look like? It goes green. That's all right. Save. Okay. Now what we could do. So there's actually quite a few more fields we could add. I just don't want to spend an hour here doing all that. We can add to that more later. So in the save for this button here, we're using a spinner. That's good. It's built into my template. Okay. And I'm going to zoom in on this coding so it's not too small for anybody. Okay. And I'm going to look to Office 365 users. Look at that. Update my profile. Update my photo. Okay. Look at this. Look at this, Kurt.
Is that going to send them to an update screen?
No.
You going to send them to a pop-up?
No. Look at the information up here it's helping us with. What do you notice here that we've talked about?
Look at that. I brought in that entire list of stuff that you had. That's pretty cool.
So the update my profile takes one parameter, but look at this. It wants a curly brace. It's one parameter that's got a lot of things we can put in here. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's look at this. You got about me in city. So let's grab that. Let's name. What's the rule on naming controls here, Kurt?
If you use it in coding, you always got to name it, and it's really important to use that notation in the front. You don't have to, but it's the best practice that he put the TXT in front of that. You don't have to do it, but let me tell you, I've been doing this a long time. Make sure you do that, because you're going to get yourself, if you get yourself into 100 variables or 100 objects and controls, you're just going to have a mess and you can't remember. I go to sleep, I wake up the next day, I can't remember what I called it, you know.
Yeah, I want to bring in Amber. Yeah, go ahead and talk, Amber. He's got a question.
I was wondering that, all the text boxes that you were putting in, you got your name up there without putting in your profile name. How is that possible? Like, I know you're making it right now, but like,
Yeah.
like
Okay, so so you may be talking about, let me get rid of this. You might be talking about my, yes, the app header, because if I go over here.
not over here, not over here. Like, go onto your screens.
Okay. Uh-huh.
Yeah, over here, like display name Darren Neese, given name Darren, when you haven't put anything in about me.
Oh, so let me see if I can show you. Whenever have you ever created an Office 365 or an M365 tenant before?
No, I haven't created a tenant before.
And most people have not. But let me show you what happens.
So it's just grabbing all the information from there on its own, like default.
When you're network administrator, I'm trying to do this without showing too much information here. Okay. Let's see if I can. There we go. So I'm going to provide first, last name. Boom. There's the display name. It's required. So almost everybody's display name is going to be there. And so that information's set. And then I can go in and edit a user and even provide a little bit more information as I'm assigning licenses and doing other things. So if that's already in there, your network administrator inputted that whenever they added you to the environment. Does that make sense?
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, very good, very good. Okay, so let's go back to the code here for the save. About me, we have profile, about me, .p, text. Okay. And let's just test one out just to make sure it works, right? Instead of spending a bunch of time on more code, we'll make sure that this one little simple thing works, just the very first one. Okay, and then I'm going to save. I'm going to zoom out. Okay, and then I'm going to do a Control-0. Good. And when I hit that save button, it's going to save the about me. Now, what I am going to do is I'm going to go look at, I don't want that to, I'll do it in a new tab here. Really quick, because I want you guys to see what this is doing here when we actually hit it, so we can actually test it, because it doesn't go off to like our SQL Server database that we're using as a data source. It's using Azure AD as the database. We'll go into Delve. Click on me. I'm going to update my profile and about me. Okay, so I'm going to go to about me and I'm going to show you here on this tenant. Here is about me. There's nothing in there. Okay. I'm going to run the program. I'm going to say Jack of all trades, master of none. You know, I heard from someone that Benjamin Franklin was the one that made this popular. And it actually wasn't the exact same. It was Jack of all trades, master of one. And he was talking about a certain topic. I'll leave it to you to go research what that one thing was that he feels everybody should be a master of. Okay. Okay, Jack of all trades, master of none. I'm going to hit save. Oh, my spinner's not on top, but It looks like it saved it. Do I have any errors? Do I have any red X's there? No. Okay. And there's a lot of stuff happening in the private chat. Kurt, would you mind just keeping an eye on the private chat for me?
Okay.
And just sort of voicing any of the accelerator students' questions or anything that's pertinent to the conversation while I continue on here. So what I've done is I've saved it. Okay, I'm going to go up here to Delve. I'm going to hit F5. And I'm going to show you what just happened here. Look at that. Okay, there it is. I refreshed, Jack of all trades, master of none. Okay, so here is an interesting thing. What happens?
So Ellie just brought into the comment a little back ago talking about interesting with the display name, as I'm having to do a template Excel for vendors to fill out and automatically upload contractor info into my app.
Hold on to that thought there, and we'll circle back with that. So you guys see what I did here is I have ADD. I just wanted to add something here. And the acronym I gave you was the word add. Okay, now I'm running here, and you notice that this thing here doesn't have my new data. How does PowerApps know about this? So let's say in the app on visible, we do, you know what we need to do is if that has changed in the app on start, we need to go grab some code here if we want it to be really dynamic. Typically, people aren't going off to Delve, changing their information and coming back to the app, right? Most people don't even know about Delve. Okay, so this is the code that we had in app on start. So what I could do is I could add, okay, here's a button, and I'll call this thing refresh user data. Okay. And inside this thing, on the on select, that in there, save it, run it. Okay. Now what I'm hoping happens is I'm going to click on this button and it's going to add in my additional information. Hit the button. Oh, look at that. I have ADD. Isn't that cool?
Very nice.
So it's a two-way street here. So we've got like a data source. Maybe you don't think of that connector as a data source, but yeah, you're using the company directory out in Azure for your tenant to pull in that information. Okay, so let's also do one more here. Okay, I also wanted to, if they change the photo to anything here on this control. Now, this is a media control, like you can upload a photo, and it's not just one control, it's two controls. There's an image control and then there's an add media. So if this thing is clicked on the on select, I'm going to say update context. Now this control can get really tricky, and my mentor would call it hairy. It's not the easiest thing to use sometimes. Okay, I'm just say loc photo uploaded. Okay, I'm gonna set that to true. Now, if somebody comes into the screen, I want that reinitialized. Or our cleanup could be done on hidden as well. So I'll do that there. Okay, on the unhidden. If we go out of here, I'm going to set it to false. And then also when we do a save, it should be set as false as well. Then what we're going to do is if this is true, if they uploaded a new photo, we want to use it. Okay. So we have this uploaded image, which should be called image profile uploaded image. Okay, that would be a good name for that. Okay, and then we'll go here in the code. And what we're going to do is we're going to say Office 365 users dot update. What did I do wrong here? Why isn't it giving me any IntelliSense? There. Ugh, I hate when it doesn't give me my IntelliSense.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do is that. See if it gives it to me here. Yes. Okay. Update my photo. What other kinds of things can we do here? We can look at all kinds of stuff. Trending documents. Search user. So this is all your Delve data. If you want to see what your all the documents your manager's working on, you can actually get at it. myprofile.manager dot trending documents. Or you want to say who they email the most and who they interact with teams on the most. It's going to be in a collection called relevant people. This is a really cool connector, guys. Is it not? Okay. I could go off down a side shoot just on that. Okay. Okay, but we're not. We could create a whole video.
I remember a time in life when that would not have been considered a cool connector. Nowadays, it's like, oh, what a great connector. Whoo!
These days, we have a Google Home AI sitting in every room or one in your house. You've got a Amazon Alexis Cube or a Fire Stick in your TV. You got your phone that can have the mic turned on. It's video camera. You drive down the road, every intersection, you've got a camera looking at you. It's just like, what a different world now, guys, huh?
I just remember, I don't know if I'm going to get this out right, but I remember at a different time when people would rail against that and have a principle. My principle of privacy, my principle of freedom, and freedom is privacy, and principles and principles. But then we give up those principles so quick for a little bit of ease of life, right? So this technology has made our life easy, and we say, screw the principles. We're going to go ahead and have fun. It's like, we made our life so much easier, so we just don't have those principles anymore. Really? It's just kind of funny how that works.
Absolutely.
People are funny.
Yes, I'm going to cut that. Right there. Boom. Everybody see that code okay? I'm going to save. I'm going to zoom in. Okay. Tap or click to add a picture. Okay. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go off and go to my desktop, see if I've got anything interesting on my desktop. Okay. This is interesting. Got me with a lightsaber. I want to hit save, cross your fingers. We're going to run some new code. Okay, looked like it worked. Now, I do notice. What's that?
This is an awful lot of coding for a no-code environment, right? Low code.
Just wait till you write a disconnected application. It's not a low code, right?
Right.
I think you've been working on one lately, right?
Awesome.
Okay, so I'm going to save this, and it should be updated. But I mean, look there. Well, you know what? Let's refresh my user data. Boom. Nope, that didn't work. Okay. Let me refresh. Look at that. Look at that handsome guy. This is normally how you'd have to update your information, so it does have it. All right, so check this out. Refresh user data. Okay, it's not really doing that. Now, what happens if I were to get out of this app? And let's go back in here. Now, this might be a good time, Kurt. What were you saying? What Ellie was talking about in the private chat?
Are you kidding me? I can't remember. Let's see.
Well, it's still there. Can you look again?
I'm going to. Interesting with the display name, as I am having to do a template Excel for vendors. Let me start that over.
Yeah, I can't hear anything because your microphone is not near me.
Right, and I got this thing so small over here I can't hardly read it. So interesting with the display name, as I am having to do a template Excel for vendors to fill out and automatically upload contractor info into my app.
Okay, very good.
And then she was talking about the topic being great, but I can't remember the context in which she was talking about this anymore. Ellie, if you want to expound on that a little bit,
All right, let's go. Okay, so you guys notice here in the upper right corner, there's my new profile photo. I'm a Jedi now. I'm no longer a PowerApps wizard. I'm now a Jedi. Now,
I don't even know how to respond to that. Really, I just don't.
What confuses me, guys, is okay. So we went and got the photo, the user record.image. Now, what if I copy and paste this and I just said user image? Oh, come on.
She was talking about. Sorry, Darren. She was talking about the display name needing to match the tenant. When you're back talking about the display name and the tenants, yeah, that was how far back that was. That's what she was referring to.
Very good. Very good.
Thank you, Ellie, for clearing up that mystery for me. I think you are saying it.
I think, Kurt, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, "Hey, Kurt, tell me about something," and I'm going to be like,
"I love programming. I love everything about programming. I like to write programs that challenge my mind. I like to problem solve. I like it when programs don't go exactly the way I think they should go, and I'm in the weeds in this thing and trying to figure it out, and then you solve it and you just feel so great. You feel like you conquered the world. I love that challenge. I love making people happy. I love helping people and making their lives easier. I really enjoy the just everything about it. They say that if you find a job that you love, you never work a day in your life. And I think that that's what I've done. I found a job I love. I love to program, and it's every day Saturday for me.
Now that was fun.
The only thing I've got to say about that is I'm glad that I pulled all my nose hairs out and I brushed my teeth and I shaved before I did that. I'm really, really, really glad that I did that. Just putting that out there.
The real reason, Kurt, is that every day feels like a Saturday. Is that you just work for me, and I'm just a great guy.
Yeah, I was pretty much talking about the industry itself, not the actual employer.
Because this is my show. I get to make up my own truth here.
You do. And I'm not going to poo-poo it. I'm not going to poo-poo it because you are quite a boss. You are quite a gracious, wonderful boss who happens to need to hear that a lot so that he can be okay.
So this is all the great content, guys. If you want to see, so Kurt has a whole series of videos. I mean, I'm going to play a short clip. Let's see what I have here. I've uploaded a few of these things.
Today I want to talk about color. I want to talk about color the way PowerApps handles color, and I want to talk about color in general and a industry standard of how the industry handles the color so that it gets used with your cascading style sheets within HTML and Java and C and C#, whatever platform that you're choosing to use, and other standard applications like Microsoft Office and different industry type applications. They all use this standard enumerated color set. On the screen right now, I'm showing you this built-in colors. These built-in.
Doesn't that look like some engaging material, guys? If you guys would like to find out more about the accelerator program and actually talk personally with me, Kurt, and just talk about what you're working with, what are your struggles, what are the things that you feel like we could help you with on a individual level, please book a call with us. There should be links down below to find out more information. Okay, and I do have. Let's see if I can find a link here. There is at the very top of the screen, you'll see Power Platform Community. That is a free community I run, but I have another link for you guys. Now look at the same place, tinyurl.com, PowerApps Accelerator. If you want to know more about the accelerator and you want to get at, I don't know, maybe 10 times the amount of content. If you really love this YouTube content, I'm just going to say it, you'd probably be a good candidate for the accelerator program. Is there one little piece of nugget that you'd like to share about the accelerator program? I have one that I'd like to share, but tell me what you think, Kurt.
Oh my goodness, I have so much I wish I could share about that. I could spend an entire 2-hour live stream talking about it, but I want to talk about the students that we have in there. We are collecting an extraordinary type of student. Darren and I have managed to, this is my dream job. I have literally picked the people that I want to work with. How many jobs can you do that? And I'm actually picking the people that I want to work with. And I've got people in here that are super passionate about PowerApps and learning about programming and just learning about, they're all students of the language. They're just like me. They're in that respect. Thank God they're not just like me in every respect, but in that respect they are. And I just really get excited about it, and they're really excited about it. And these students, they band together. We learn. We get together every 3 days a week where we pick each other up. Where it's not about who knows the most. It's about the person who knows the most in the moment brings everybody up so that they're learning just as much as they are. It's just a wonderful thing. I can't talk enough about it. I hope I didn't say too much. There you go. There you have it.
And we have group calls and things that go on that I just love seeing my accelerator students each. I just had a visitor. This is Ezra. Hi, Ezra. Ezra is 4 years old, and right now he's nonverbal, but he loves ceiling fans and lights. And chances, oh, hi, Nicole. I'm going to take care of this. Okay.
So Ellie was talking over there in the other chat. She's talking about how she's part of the accelerator program, and she was talking about. I remember this is how we first met, Ellie. I was talking about in our live stream. We were talking about some kind of a bug, and I said, "Yeah, that's a feature." And she was cracking up over that, and she said she found her tribe. And I've never forgot that when she said, "I found my tribe." That's the first time I heard that, and I thought that was such a cool thing. And she just said again, she said, "This is the community and my tribe." It's a wonderful, wonderful thing we've got going on here.
Yeah, I think she put that in the comments a few weeks ago, and you should book a call with it if you like what you're seeing here. And you want more? Well, how about 100 times? What about tons more? What about seeing me and Kurt 3 times a week, and maybe even more than that? If you love this stuff, at least book a call with us. Let us talk to you. YouTube, I've got 11,000 subscribers now. It feels like a one-way communication. I mean, the live being live and seeing chats sort of helps with that. But being on a Zoom call with you, I'm like, hey, show me your PowerApps app. Let's see what you got going on here. Oh, you got that error? Well, I might use a with block there instead of, what, we could give you some advice there. But we can answer any questions you have on the accelerator system, so Rosa says I'm also part of the, Rosa. And it's a wonderful group of people. Yeah, absolutely. I just love our group calls. Also, Patty.
Yeah.
Thank you, Patty.
The students in their own ways where they're at in the moment, they are just as strong as we are in the platform that we're teaching in. And it just seems like it's just if you're a beginner, you will not be a beginner for very long with this group of people. This group of people just wants everybody to come up. It's all about bringing each other up. I just love that.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Yeah. Well, good deal, guys. Let's see here. Let's open up the screen here, and we'll do a little bit of trying to make sure I'm managing everything here. And so far what we've done is we have tied into this connector, the Office 365 users. We've pulled in all that information, put it into a global variable. And if they're new, we shoot them off to the screen. So we created the screen, the beginning of the screen. I mean, we have a lot more polishing to do on this screen. People can update information about themselves, upload photos. You've learned about Delve, and
for some reason, YouTube thinks you're going to like this video next. Let's see if they're right. Or you can select this playlist, which I've selected for you based on the content you're currently watching. Guys, gotta hurry, click one of them. Otherwise, YouTube's going to autoplay some other video, which you probably don't want.